Hey guys, so on the real, I haven't done one of these podcasts in 10 months and I've tried to do an intro like 5 times and none of them worked out. Hey, it's your girl, Lindsay 19. How do I do this again? Lol. Anyway, yes, I'm here to make a episode of this podcast. It has been 10 months. So I'm here. I have been on my butt to do this, a new episode for several months. But you know what? Here we are. The way things are looking in the United States, I may not have much longer to speak freely. I don't know, or exist. I'm not sure. But this is not a political podcast. This is a slice of life diary podcast. You know, my kink adventure. You know what I mean? So 10 months ago was April, right? Yeah, it was April. This was, so in the last episode, I was like, I don't remember. I was wearing the blonde wig too. I don't wear wigs anymore. We'll get to that. So I was like kind of skimming through and I was like, what was I like even talking about? And it was mostly about doing the tie-up in Chicago and what I wanted to do with the podcast. It's terrible too. But you know what? Because, you know, I'm talking about like, doing like other interviews with other people. And like, I know a lot of trans people now and kinky trans people. I could do it, but it's just, I've let the podcast just kind of sit there and just collect dust, but we're back. I did an interview with a girl and I had lots of technical difficulties with the audio. And like, honestly, like, I feel like it wasn't until towards the end of the interview that we kind of hit a rhythm with each other. And, like, it's been 10 months and I know she's been exploring and doing stuff. And so now I'm just like, what's the point? Well, you know, it's not like, what's the point? I could still put out, that, you know, first episode, but like, I kind of want to just get her back and be like, hey, can we just like, take another run at this? I feel like it'd be better. You know, I'll do the tech stuff better. I was having to go in like second by second to adjust audio things because it was all messed up. I don't want to talk about it. It was terrible. But the interview was great. It was just, but like I said, I think we didn't really kind of hit, my rhythm as an interviewer and her being interviewed about like her, interests and all that. It was, I think, very new for both of us. So we'll give that another shot. I have not abandoned, how long have I been saying that for like 2 years? I have not abandoned the dream. We have not abandoned the dream. We are going to interview other kinky trans people, but we're also using this channel apparently for my rope tutorials and some other nonsense too. I was like, I need to put out a few safe for work videos and I was like, well, YouTube channel right there. Whopping 180 subscribers, but you know what? That's 180 eyeballs that are going to see my one-handed Somerville bowlines. That's a big deal. It's like, is it a big deal or is it just like nobody's done them because like, why would you do them or why would you need to do them? I don't know. Well, it's like I need to do them because I do, the self-bondage. I've been doing a lot of self-bondage over the last 10 months. Self-bondage is kind of like medicating ADHD with caffeine. You know, it's like, but, no. You know, it's, speaking of which, like, I'm trying my best here to medicate myself with this is my cup of self-bondage. Oh, that's so okay. It's so okay. Like, just kidding. So, one of the things on this channel is you can watch me hog tie myself in like 11 minutes. And I screwed up 3 times. And if I actually got my butt back in action and did another self hog tie, I'd probably do much better time. That was the whole point. I was going to like ghost race myself like Mario Kart and just like see how quickly I could do like self hog ties. But I did it once and I screwed up 3 times and it was 11 minutes. And so to me, I already know that's like an 8-minute hog tie. So it's like, do I even need to prove? What do I need to prove? You know what I mean? Like, it's for me. And that's true. The self-bondage has always been for me. And that is, that has been, like... So in April of last year is when I did the last video. I seemed very like upbeat. I was more invested in the local scene. I think I recall talking about that coming back from Chicago. And instead of looking 3 hours away at the city so much, I was trying to look locally and to establish the local community more. There was a little bit of one. And I kind of had like I was there with the guy. We were the only two at the first munch. I mean, there was a third guy. He was a chaser, and he went to like one munch and tried to get up in this, and then when that didn't happen, I know, like he never showed up to any more of the events, and then like he would just awkwardly try to hit on me occasionally whenever he'd see me, and it was just skeeves me. He's one of those guys who's just like, oh hey, a safe place to meet my bottoming fantasies. It's like the worst kind of guy to be interested in me. But anyway, I tried to get more. I built it up a little bit. It was going very good. I started teaching classes. I think in late April or early May, rope classes here at my home actually, with the community. I actually have a hidden episode of this podcast. It's actually marked private right now. It's about an hour long of me going into depth about what happened here in the local scene. I'm not going to go into it too much here because it's like I can't just sit here and dabble and tease or whatever without telling the whole story. But the point is, some very, very bad shit happened between me and a guy who was supposed to be my friend. Who he cooked me good, like, ooh, no. Not going to talk about it. Anyway, I dipped out because it was very important to me to protect myself. I could try to, and like some of the leadership knew. They knew what had happened. And they did nothing, and one of them, the one who I started it with, was like, well, you told me you were scared and like of this person. And so out of respect for you, I didn't say anything to anybody, or you know what I mean? And it's like, I get that, but it's like sometimes when, somebody doesn't want to prosecute somebody, sometimes the state will pick that up and be like, no, this crime is too heinous. We're going to go ahead and check this out anyway, without you, and it's just like, but honestly, I was like, I'm scared of my life. I was scared for my life. And I was just like, no. And so I dipped out real hard about June or July or something like that of the local scene. The local scene here was the worst thing that has ever happened to me on my kink journey. 1,000% assurance there. The worst thing. And I got essayed twice in the city the last year. And, it was the year, oh God, it was the year before last. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was. But still, like, what happened here was horrible, and that's where I'm going to leave it. So that coursed out over a couple months. At that time, I had a rope bunny I was tying with, a local rope bunny. Once some of the toxicity of the local scene caught up with her, she kind of dipped out as well. She got into a relationship, and it was kind of one of the... And I was like, she's very vanilla, and I was worried about that because she was dating, and I was like, hey, you're so vanilla, and you're getting into it with these vanilla guys. Like, you really think they're going to be okay with me tying you up? And she was just like, oh yeah, he just thinks of me as I come with a girlfriend who ties me up, or, not a girlfriend, but like a friend, and, I knew that wasn't gonna pan out, but, but we did some incredible work together. We tied together maybe 6 or 7 times. I made sure to get the most, out of those experiences as I could. And we have, some amazing photos that are up. And I did my first suspension with her too. I was kind of, oddly enough, like tricked into that suspension, as odd as that may sound. And again, that I can't speak to that so much without speaking again to some of the toxicity of the local members of the local scene who walked me into that situation I was in. Like, I lost control of the scene. I'm not going to, there was other people who inserted themselves into it and kind of minimized me. And, it was done safely, but I wasn't ready for it. It was a suspension, the pictures, it's on my FL profile and stuff. It's nothing I try to hide or anything. I'm proud of that first suspension. It was by her ankles. And again, I didn't intend to do it really, but it's like, yeah, I don't want to go into the specifics, but I mean, it was a partial that she just lifted her arms. And then I looked down and I was like, whoa, and she's like, no, like, this is great. I feel perfect. And then, there's another person there who was like, no, I hated that experience. And that was, again, another one of the experiences that were very bad locally. So much bad happened locally. It's like, it's small town vibe, it's like, they kind of just, I don't know. Yeah, I get it. I'm going to stop. So it took me, it was in a very, very brief, I don't want to call it a relationship, but it was kind of a fling during that time. But what was significant about that was that I was getting my needs met for the first time, I suppose you'd say. Like, I was getting tied up 2 to 3 times a week. I think it was 3 times in 1 week, one time. But he was coming to me. He lived about an hour and a half away, but he had no problem coming to me. It was incredible. And now he had a lot of sexual interest in me. And there was, and I remember thinking at some point, I was like, we're moving away from like bondage and BDSM and more in these sexual territories. And it was starting to make me uncomfortable because I felt like, I'm kind of losing sight of what we're here to do. And yes, he is a very horny man with a lot of libido. But like, my needs were more cerebral than that. And it's like, I don't mind. I love, I have more than just BDSM needs, but, so there was, slight difficulty there, but I was still very, very happy with the situation, until it fell apart in a very, 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 very ugly way. It took me several months to recover from that. It took me a long time to recover from that. I wouldn't say I was fully recovered until like October. And that's when I had flown out to Florida to see a couple of friends and stay, I think it was 5 days with them, and to tie and play with them for about 5 days. But that had really helped me get over a hump, but it had also something, I don't know, like, this last year for me was really difficult, especially after May. I had some pretty substantial mental health difficulties during that time. Struggle with isolation and loneliness. That has been the thing that has kind of transpired since the Chicago trip and since trying to get plugged in locally. It was because what happened was when I tried to plug in locally for those like 4 or 5 months, I disconnected from the city scene 3 hours away. And so when it blew up in my face here, suddenly I'm just kind of like, I can't, I have, the well is poisoned here, and over there, like, hardly anybody's talking to me now, or like, I don't know, like, I had two of my rope people, one of them I had a very explicit falling out with, but another one just kind of like, didn't seem like he wanted to tie me anymore, and he wasn't offering anymore, and he seemed kind of like uncomfortable around me, and I wasn't sure why. I thought maybe it had something to do with the explicit falling out I had with the other one, which I may have mentioned in the last video, when we had done a scene. He'd given me a pity tie, basically, and it had gone very, very bad. And he just wouldn't have the conversation with me about it, because it crushed me and stuff. And like, there's so many bad things about it. He didn't take a single picture. He didn't care. And if he didn't care, he shouldn't have done it. He just felt sorry for me because he had been kind of cruel to me lately. He'd been neglecting me for his like new relationships. And I get NRE, I too. But I cautioned him because he kept coming to me talking about her and all these things. And I was like, hey, we have a tying relationship. Like I still like to tie with you too, and I had to stop him, at one point. And he seemed to be like, okay, I'm sorry. I understand. I get that. And then that's when he kind of offered the pity tie. And I remember I was like, don't do it. Don't take that. And I did because I was needy, But so when I, started going back there, suddenly I find nobody's tying me. I can't find any bondage over there. And, obviously not here. And yeah, like yeah, and in a lot of ways, in some ways, I'm still kind of in that place, you know. In some ways, things have changed substantially since between now and then, but yeah, um, yeah. But I made a couple attempts to top because I kind of, you know, especially after working with that bottom too, and getting, and you know, free, you know, pretty much everything I did on her, I freestyled. I think I followed a pattern for a TK on my first TK I did on her, but then when I freestyled the one later, we both liked that one better. And like I've never tied, you know, similar TK twice. Like, you know, I love freestyling them, but I kind of just figured like, hey, this is what you do. You top, you know, you're a rope top. You know, it's like, you know, at this point too in my rope skills, I've gotten past this point of those. You know, I was doing a lot of chaos nets on myself and a lot of it kind of looking like, you know, looking like a baby deer trying to take its first steps. You know, a lot of those crazy patterns and like weird fudos and just like strangeness. Those things I was very proud of while I was learning rope. I don't really tie like that anymore, and I'm not like I guess I need to deliberately try to do some chaos on me, and I do, but it's not the same. But a lot of that was fading as you know I started to tie on other people and just get better at tying on myself and learning about what my rope rules were too, because a lot of the chaos stuff was also just meant to show. It's an expression, sometimes a feeling, but also a display, I guess, of where I'm at in my skill level. Um, yeah, but it started to get a lot better. The self bondage started to get more routine. Like doing like a handcuff thing with the rope. Like I used to, you know, at the time of this last video, I was still laying those on the ground, making a circle, flipping it, making a circle, laying them together, and then screwing up the pull throughs a bunch in this, you know, being like, where am I, you know, now I can be completely like hog-tied and then get that thing and then be holding it and flip it into place and pull it tight, slip an arm in and then do the other one. Like without, yeah. And it's like, it's just become such a muscle memory thing. And, I'm super proud of that, you know. I remember the first time I was like sitting there and I was like, can I just do this without laying it out and being all meticulous? And I was like, oh God, I can. Just did it. You know, but my lock offs on those have gotten more consistent and less rambunctious, I guess you could say. That's what I would say. Excuse me. Yeah, a lot less rambunctiousness in my rope. But so I was just kind of randomly maybe tying on people here and there, spending a lot of time tying on myself. My photography was also getting to a point now where it was getting really, really good, and it kind of happened by accident too. You know, I got a couple of new lights sometime last year, and of course they, you know, much softer, better looking light in my opinion. But I normally would still had been shooting with a lot of light. That because that's kind of how I was taught, was that you start with a lot and it's easier to you know go down in the editing room, which is generally true. I generally still do adhere to that to a point. You know, and so now I had done a test shot when I have one light just on my chest when I was wearing this really beautiful white dress and my Bloodborne pendant. And the light, oh my God, and just, you know, the way it had naturally come out of the camera, I barely edited the thing, and it just looked glorious, you know. It's like, I just love that moody lighting. And you know, I kind of started to do a series of self ties, like those. I would do a few projects here and there, and that helped a lot with the loneliness. And you know, like I would have these like multi-day like things where I would do like the ladder ties on my legs. I did several days where I would do sets of 3. I would do a picture of the rope marks, a teasing picture of like maybe really close up with like all it blurry in the background, and then the picture of the actual tie. Or wait, no, it was a tease, the picture of the actual tie, and then picture of the rope marks. And I did that for several days on different colored ropes and different styles of ladder ties. And I did futomomos, different colors of rope, different styles of futomomos. Did all those with very moody lighting. And that was something that really, I think, helped push my photography forward, because it kind of gave me a little bit more of a fuck it style. Like, just having one light and just moving that thing around while you're down there tied up, and just moving your camera around and just playing with the light and seeing where it crosses funny and like moving into it just right. Like doing a lot of that playing at night and just taking those, wasn't camming or anything. Actually, a couple times I was camming for the green queen snake tie, which I think was the final one. I was on cam for that one. And I was extremely happy with how all those came out. The Futo ones as well. I sold my first print of one of the Futo ones, $60 for the green Futomomo tie with the Bloodborne pendant. And it's a glorious shot. Like, yeah. But for somebody to be like, hey, I want to put this on my wall. Like, I was just like, oh my God. And at this point, I was starting to hear more comments of like, less of like, oh, you're so gorgeous, you're so beautiful, you're so sexy, into more like, wow, you're so talented, and this is so artistic, and this, you know what I mean? And that was kind of new, it's like, I know my photography is pretty good, but now, now we're getting to a point where I'm taking pictures of the things that I think are really pretty. In a really pretty way, which before I wasn't quite able to do that because I couldn't create them with the rope, and then I couldn't take those types of pictures. So I guess you could say that, in that big downtime between the crushingness that happened here and then the move to recovery that culminated in about October. That's when I really pushed a lot of my tying and photography forward. And I guess I didn't really think about that, until now. But at some point, I think it was in August, I had, just kind of decided like I'm a rope top. Like that's, I have a lot of guilt on my restraint needs still, because nobody seems to be able to meet them. It's always just too much, it seems like. For people, like, I always seem to want to ask for a bit too much, or I'll want an extra tie when the other person is out of energy, and I'm still like wanting a little bit, and like it sucks. And like somebody recently asked me, like, because I some addiction history in my family and everything, and they were like, you should, is this like addiction behavior? I was like, or do you I think they asked if I thought it was, and I was like, yeah, I've thought that for a long fucking time. Yeah, and like I don't know what to do in that case, if that's what it is, besides just quitting it and cold turkey. And like, I don't do restraint anymore. I don't do bondage. It's like, I got this this hard point, up in my ceiling here. I do have that hard point though. I just got that put in a couple of days ago. I think I even mentioned that in the last episode. I was like, oh, what a hard point. Like, I was actually using a janked up pull-up bar, modified pull-up bar, in my closet doorway there for a little while to do partials, and maybe admittedly a couple of full suspensions. But they were brief and they were easy to get out of. Getting ahead of myself here, but literally, like, right after I got that thing put in, and that is a legitimate installation. Like, we were up in the attic. I mean, he was mostly the one up in the attic. And this house is very well built too. So it's like there's like 2x6s up there instead of like 2x4s. It's good stuff. I actually and I was present for the whole process, and I know I carried the piece of wood that now carries me out of the lows. So, and I trust that wood. It's fucking massive. I've got this beautiful hard point now, and I'm going to quit rope because I'm a rope addict. Basically. I just was like, we're gonna tie to the people, and that's gonna be who we are, what we do, and blah blah blah. You know, um, that's how all rope tops think, or is that I don't know. It sounds like me when I was trying to make peace with living before I transitioned, where I was like, yeah, well, I wanted to be a girl, but I'm not, so I'm just gonna truck along and, just put my best in and, and just die early one day and that'll be a good life. Like, that was basically it. That's kind of how it sounds like my attitude about rope topping, but and it's so complicated. Like, I do love to rope top. But only when my needs are met, and only when I'm like wanting to give to that person. Usually, it's such an energy thing for me, and it's like if I want to give to you, like you're going to get it. But yeah. But after some time of like just bleh, I think it was like 3 months, and I think this was even when I took a pointed hiatus, like a content creation hiatus. Yeah, I did for like a month after that. But yeah, eventually I was like looking at an old picture of me in a cute dress, like super cute dress that I wore on that first date to so it was I wore it on the first date with the guy I was in a whatever with, not a fling relationship, I don't know, but he took me on he took me on to like $100 date, you know what I mean, like, so I don't know what we were. But yeah, I wore this beautiful dress. I mean, it was hot more than beautiful, but yeah, and I months later was just kind of like going through and cleaning up photos still on my profile, make sure less that were associated with him and stuff like that, and the other guy who was really the big villain. Like the guy I was in a relationship with, that was just kind of like, we broke up and it was kind of ugly. The real toxicity was from another guy in that community, the one I'm like scared of and shit. But yeah, like where's it going with this? Yeah, oh, I was looking at the dress, right? Yeah, I was looking at the picture of me in the dress, and there was a comment from a girl that I had met once in February at one of the clubs in the city. It was right around my birthday of last year, and I'd met her and her partner and their friend, who was the person that I actually knew. And her and I were kind of like, we were both like foot girls, and we were just like, ooh, you got cute feet, and I was like, you do too. It was one of those things. And but yeah, so I had met that one girl that one night. And I didn't remember much about her except for her just being super duper smiley, like, but I'd seen she commented on that picture of me in the dress, because my caption was like, would you like first date me or something, because I was, I thought I looked like real hot and stuff, and she was like, I sure would, and so here I am seeing that like 3 months later, and, kind of feeling like I want to like open myself back up a little bit, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, so let's figure out a cute thing to, or I didn't know how to approach her really, but I just like one night I just thought of the cutest thing. I was like, on FL, when you send like a relationship request, only the other person can see it, and then they can either accept it and it'll put it on their profile, or they can reject it. And I sent her a relationship request that said crushing, so it said crushing on her, and and you see that sometimes in people's profile, like it's, so if it's on there, then she's accepted. But I was like, I didn't really expect her to accept it. I thought it would be cute for her to like look and see this little private thing that says like Lindsay 19 is crushing, And I was like, hey, if she doesn't like me back, then hey, then it's quiet and nobody has, it's like she could just hit X and not even talk to me, or she can hit X and we can talk, and it's like. But she accepted it, sure enough, like a day, and it was like 2 days later too. Like she didn't get on for like 2 days later. But she did, and I was just like, I think I was on cam too, and like, because I was on cam when I did it, because I was like, I was bored, it was late, and there was like one guy in my room, and I was like, dude, she's so cute. Like, should I do it? And he was like, do it. And I was like, I could never. And he was like, do it. And I was like, okay. um, yeah, and so she accepted it, and then I got like really scared for like a week and a half, and I didn't say anything for a week and a half. I just like hid. But then I was like, well, I was also like really busy with something. I can't remember, but I was also, but then, you know, I was like, you are going to get to this girl. But I also didn't want to get to her until I knew when I was like, going to come in town. Cause I was like, hey, she accepted it. She seems to be, you know, interested to say the least. Then ask her on a date, you know, ask her if she wants to do a little rope date, you know, or a real date, whichever she would prefer, you know, cause I know she likes to do rope. She likes to get tied up. And so eventually I reached out to him. I was like, hi, sorry for being awkward. Do you want to go out sometime or whatever, you know? Like, I'm so bad at like asking people out or approaching. I'm such a receptive being. Since I've transitioned, like it's terrible. Like I struggle with attraction too. Like I still don't quite really know what my orientation is. Like I think I'm a straight girl. Yeah, like I think I'm about as heteroflexible as I don't know most people are these days, but I think I might just be in guys. Like I'm not sure, but at this point, and I mean still at this point, I'm like, I'm willing to explore. Like connection's connection, and to me, I consider myself like noetic. What's the word like noetic or something basically, or notisexual? I don't know how to pronounce it, but basically it means like I don't think you're sexually attractive unless I'm connected with you. And by connected, I interpret that as like you seeing me, like if you actually do see me or not. And that's a whole like trans thing and probably also a me thing about like whether people are like pretending that you are who you are or if they really think you are. Or, I don't know. It's just, I can usually tell. I can tell if I'm being seen or not. But basically, we're not going to get any more sexual if you don't see me, or if I'm unsure about whether you see me. And to me, but that's genderless, like So I consider myself to be attractive. Um, maybe I'm like romantically interested in men more than women or something. I don't know. But back then I didn't know either. So, but yeah. Anyway, we set up a little rope date, and I went. And I brought all my equipment to do photos and everything. Because that was the other thing is like, this was one of the first times I think I really went somewhere to somebody's house and set up my equipment to do actual photos, I really do think so. And so it was very exciting for that reason. And she mentioned that her partner, who I knew was in the local rope group, and I didn't really know him. I just knew of him, and I think I saw an interaction in like a group chat with the rope group one day where he was kind of called out for saying, I can't remember what it was. It was not misgendering, but I don't know. This is probably not even fair to me to say. I honestly can't remember what it was, but I just remember somebody or something he said was like, I can't remember, slightly insensitive or something. But all I remember was he was being very, like, he was owning it. Like he was very much like not taking it like, he was like very much like I'm here to learn, like, and like I want to understand, and if I've said anything that I want to understand, like and so I just remember seeing that was the only thing I knew about him was seeing a kind of a hot chat in that chat room and him being like involved but being very much like humble. So you know what I mean, like I didn't really know what to think of the guy. But yeah, she mentioned that he may be there, that he may also want to tie. I took that thought and put it in my brain and threw it right back out and was like, tie on you and I can take pictures of y'all, like, yeah, she said that. And I remember just like my brain not allowing myself to hear that. because it was a maybe, and because it was like ambiguous, like tie who, like me, why? You don't know me. Like, I don't know him. Like, and it's not like, oh, I don't know him, you can't tie me up. I am, anybody knows me, is I am so rope ravenous that, like, yeah, you pass my vibe checks, and yeah, we'll tie right there. Like, let me see your fingernails. Like, that's one of my big vibe checks. Well, let me see your fingernails. But yeah, so I just took that. I was like, oh, there's a might be there. There's a might tie. There's a might not think about that. Um, and I got there. I think he got there like right after I got there too. I was had my lights set up, had my camera tripoded and stuff. He had offered he kind of took a seat like in the production area, and was like very like observant, and was like interested in what I was doing and everything, and like just watching. And I tripoded the camera, and I think he even made some comment about like, well, he could like take shots, or he could hold the camera. And I remember just kind of being like, no, you sit over there. This is my production. um and it's funny because I actually screwed up those first tripoded shots because the camera was angled too low, and it focused on the floor instead of my leg over her when she's tied up on her side. But actually, I managed to save in editing because it blurred it up. I accentuated the blur and the colors and the light, and kind of gave it this dreamy quality. So it made it work anyway. But I just remember thinking like, he offered to help, and like I just flubbed my shots. And I did let him help, though. I think I took some more tripoded shots after that, and but then I gave him the camera, and his shots are great. Like, they were great. And I took some in my hand too. But yeah, that was sorry. That was my first time doing like a production like that. It was great. I was super happy with it. The rope looked good. The pictures came out good. She she had a great time. You can tell she got all bubbly, and she's so cute. Um, and yeah, and so when the time is coming to like finish up and everything, they have like, they're going like boating later and stuff. He has a boat, and so they're gonna go get another boat later, which I think I knew about. But he does ask if I want to be tied or anything, because he knows who I am and how much that's all I talk about. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, can't remember what noise comes out of my face, but it's something like, it's something breathy and like quiet, like, for me. Like, but he's like, yeah, it's all like, okay, so he kind of asks, I think, what I look for in my rope, and I tell him a lot of compression, which he took to mean just a ton of wraps. And so like, he did my legs, like, the pictures are great. Like, I do those like queen snake ties where I do like heavy wraps. I mean, he kind of did very similar, but different style or whatever, much different style. But yeah, like, no, he and then on my torso, he pretty much wrapped my entire thing up, like basically like a snake. Yeah, but no, he did that. And I remember when he was putting the rope on me. I'm somebody who's just, I love the essence of shibari and connection and all these things. But, I wasn't very not expecting anything from this guy. I was not expecting a tie, much less anything more than just like hey, I'm going to put you in a tie. But I think it was when he put his arm around me to do the front bend or to tie something back. It's like, I think there's a picture too, because his partner had taken some pictures. I'm pretty sure it is one of the ones I have edited and up. Is he puts his head next to mine while he's leaning forward to do that, and it's like, we're very close, and Yeah, I look on my face in that picture. I'm like, you know, I was like, yeah, like just some energy right off the bat there or whatever. Which I wasn't at all expecting, but I was just like, yeah, and yeah, when he got me tied, he put me on my side, and like he stayed there with me, like very close, which is like what I want and appreciate. Which again, I was yeah expecting and maybe we should have had a more thorough negotiation about what our expectations were. But I guess I just come from a place where I assume most men, especially, like aren't comfortable with my body, you know, for whatever reasons, my own reasons, but no, like I'm like there on my side, and he's just like staying there, just kind of like being present. He takes this like head, one of those like head scratchers, the thing that like goes all over your head, the little like arm. I have one now. But like he takes it off me and starts like massaging my scalp with it while I'm tied up, and like there's pictures of me like because it feels amazing. It says all those like things down your spine and stuff. And yeah, I told him later, I was like, this is brainwashing. But yeah, he did that, and then like their friends were coming over, and they were all going to go boating, and so it was like I was going to have to come out soon. I asked if I could stay in a little bit longer, and it was fine. They let me, and um, people came over. It was just these two girls, and I met them while I was tied up too. It was fun. But like they knew and stuff before they got there. But yeah, I had planned to leave after that, and then he invited me to come with them. And then she gave me a bikini. And remember, this was back in like August or whatever. Instead of like right now where it's miserable cold. And yeah, we went boating, and it was really fun. It was great. Like, and I'm not somebody who gets out and does a lot of stuff like that. I don't have a lot of friends, and I don't just hang out like that. And so it was very, very good for me on multiple levels. Being included like that, and he was very sweet to me too. Like he came up to me a few times, like on the boat, and was like told me like he was like glad to have me there with them and stuff, and like made sure to assure me that like I was you know very welcome with them, and it's very sweet. Um, and then I spent the night, and then I think I went home the next day or back to my other friends. I can't remember. And that was in August. And then, yeah, I can't remember exactly. I had also had a plan to go see the Chicago Rope guy again in November, a standing plan that had been standing since the last time I'd seen him, and then the guy who I worked with the previous time, the one who financed the whole trip, decided that he didn't want to finance the extra $200 or something that it was going to cost for this thing to happen. So there went that whole trip, and I tried to get him to negotiate that for months before the thing because I didn't want to, and he just kept, oh, it'll be fine, and then one day it wasn't fine, and it was like a month out, I think it was less than a month out or 3 weeks out or something when he just, so that fell apart, and that was something that I was kind of holding on to for a while because there was even a moment where I think it was about when I had sent that crushing request on that girl because I was like, I'm a rope top, but maybe I can bottom for like one or two people, like, or something, or like, once a year I can go see this guy and get this ultra bottoming in, and this will be like the only dude who ties me up, but it's like assured, or something, or it's like, I don't know. I had heavy feelings. I was in a very bad place at the time too. Um, but yeah, I was just mm, but September goes by. October, I meet a girl online who I've been aware of for a long time, and admittedly kind of fangirled after a little bit. But her and I started to actually talk. We'd kind of poked each other here and there, but we suddenly started talking, and then before I knew it, a planned trip had come up. to me to go see them in Florida. And I did that at the end of November, right around Halloween, or October, right around the end of Halloween. And I got more good restraint bondage and scene experience in those 5 days than I had like ever. Yeah, I learned just so much, and yeah, and it was a complicated experience for a number of reasons, but it was a very, very good experience. And I came out of that in a very strange place. And right before I went into it, right before I went to Florida, I was kind of at a little bit of the depths of despair when it came to my rope bottoming. I was putting out ads again. I think that had happened started in September, where I was putting out ads for rope partners, and then I started to be more specific about I want a top, like, I want somebody to tie me up. Like, let's be clear, like that's the major thing. Let's look for this. Um, yeah, so and those are frustrating because you put out these ads and people just want sex or they want something else that's not the bondage. And so I'm constantly getting all these messages that are just disappointing, and then I'm trying to give the people a chance to seem good, and then not long later they completely drop it or fumble me, or let on what they're really after, and it has nothing to do with what I've posted an ad about. And so that was just depressing quite often. So yeah, these were very tough times. Yeah. Um, but I was throwing a fit on FL one day. God, I'm always so embarrassed about that too. Even though one of the girls had pointed out, she was like, look, you got what you want, didn't you? And I was like, oh, it feels so gross. But I was just, I mean, I was just on there, just, lamenting the fact that I still cannot find anybody. I can't find anybody to tie with. And I even had like my old rope top, like, said he made some comment in there, and I was like, yeah, I hadn't anybody since you. And then he said something, and I was like, I just want, I even called him out publicly. I was like, I just wanted to have a conversation with you. If you just talk to me. But like, even at this point, like, I want to tie with the dude. And this is neglecting this whole saga too. If there was a guy who tied me up in June, or like late May, early June, during the whole local fallout, and he lived an hour and a half away, and he talked for months about being my regular rope top. He's like, I can come down and stay with you. You can come stay with me. Like, it seemed perfect, and he'd led me on so hard. And every time I was like asking for reassurances, like, hey, it's been months. Like, we tied one time. Are we ever gonna tie again? He would tell me you're getting tied up again, definitely. Like, he would give me everything I needed, and then or felt like I needed. It wasn't until about 2 months ago when I told him to take our pictures down. I was like, look, no, take these down. Like, no. And he was like, he told me, like, I hope you appreciate that it's been a busy year for me. And I was just like, dude, I told you, you knew what a needy bottom I was. And like, you talked like you were going to tie me up on the regular basis. And then you just didn't do it at all. And it was like the absurdity of the two-facedness of it, and so I was like, take our pictures down, because I'd already taken ours down months before, and he did, but yeah, so doing a lot of lamenting in September or October or something. But anyway, the guy who tied me up, the boat guy, he had told me, I think even a message weeks later, because he'd seen me crying on there. When I like looked back, I was like, he'd messaged me a couple times, like, hey, I saw your post. I hope everything's okay. And I just kind of like, I don't see that. Like, thank you, I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Well, it's not like I didn't. It's not like I just ignored him, but I just kind of thanked him for the acknowledgement or whatever. He told me their house is always open to me, I didn't reach back out to her because I didn't feel like I could tie on anybody really, and like, and again, like, I don't know who I'm attracted to, but I think it might be men. I don't think it's. I'm not sure if it's. I don't think it's women. I'm still not sure. Um, but So anyway, he sends me a message in one of my like fits, right, like a week or two before I'm going to Florida, and he's like, "Hey, I saw your thing. I hope everything's okay." Oh wait, no, this was the one where because I was talking about putting these ads out and how frustrating it was, and he was like, "Hey, I'm not sure, what was going on with all that, but if you ever need somebody to tie on you, like I've got this crazy schedule, but anytime I'm available, I'm always willing to help out." Um, and so there it was, and yet I am so trained into these like spaces of like, no, it won't work out, or no, it's not for me, or no, he's is interested in the wrong place, or no, it's a pity tie, or whatever. Like, so standoffish about even accepting rope at some point. That he tied me up, and this was months later. That he's like, and in his previous thing, he had kind of indicated like, hey, you can always, you're welcome here. But to me, I was like, I went to tie on his partner, and then I can't go back to get tied on by him. It just seems weird. And also, yeah, I just had a ton of reasons why I couldn't reach out to him, and I did not really consider him to be a viable, like, option for me, I guess. um, but when he told me that, I was like, okay, well, let's make a date. Because to me, like, hey, if you're telling me this and you're going this far with me, then like, I want to let's nail in a date and a time, because then that means we're doing this, um, and well, I think it was actually. I don't think we had picked a date or time, but it was kind of a thing of like, well, I'm going to Florida here in a minute, and then maybe when I get back, we can figure something out. I can't remember if we set the date before I went or not, but anyway, that happened, right? No, I don't think we set the date. I went to Florida, did the thing, came back, asked him if we could do that. He told me yes, and we set like a daytime, weekday date to where I would drive up there. It's like 2.5, 3 hours. He's the one who put that hard point in the ceiling, by the way. So he knows what that drive feels like. But I drive like 3 hours up there, and then we would tie for a little while, and then I would come back. But so that was the plan, is that I would come up there. We would basically just like take a minute to talk about what we wanted to do. Well, I mean, we'd already like negotiated kind of what we wanted to do, but he's a service top, and I'm able to give good directions, and so I kind of was able to give him kind of a script for the scene that I wanted for a first scene, and he pretty much followed it and improvised a little bit and kind of just got the vibe of it, and like learned what I'm like, and I learned what he's like a little bit more. And this is like probably the best thing I can say probably ever on the show, and since my transition and about my kink journey, is that it's been working out since then. Like that was November. That second time we tied was in November. Is now February, the middle of February. It's like 2.5 months, y'all. We tie about like twice a month. I go up there like, once every other week or so. It's still like, it's been a little crazy for the holidays, and we both have some things. So, we're potentially maybe able to move into something a little bit more frequent. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of driving for me, and it's a mental toll. And, luckily, I stay the night and stuff when I go now. And that helps too. Like, so I mean, this guy is extremely good to me, and I remember being caught off guard by that. Like, the amount of like care, like aftercare, and not just that, like before care. Like, I just remember telling my friend that I was like, he before cares me. Like before we play, he'll sit there and like cuddle me on the couch and like ask me how I'm feeling and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh my god. I was again and again and again just caught by complete surprise by how good he was being to me, and and there's not a big sexual component to it. Like we are physically, pretty close and intimate in some senses and less in others. And as we've grown, and we're still, we're happy with where we are right now. But yeah, it has not been like an incredibly fast moving thing. It's been, yeah, it's been an incredibly good thing for me. I do believe. I've done an incredible amount of communication. Like he's a great communicator. We've had a lot of uncomfortable conversations. Um, like yeah, and I remember I was telling my therapist at one point like some of the different things that like I was concerned about or that we were had thing, and almost every time I was telling her like, and I've talked to him about this or like and I brought this up to him and blah blah blah, and she's like, God, like you've talked about a lot together, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, really we have. But but yeah, being clear about our boundaries, not just in the playroom, but like outside the playroom have been like super good for us and put us in a good place. I give him thorough feedback after we play as best I can. And he's very good about, receiving that feedback. Like he is interested in making content with me, you know what I mean? Like he'll film our scenes and does model release for me so I can actually show it to people and stuff, and like I can show him playing with me, and you know what I mean? Like it's like the neatest thing for me, and it's still very new. Like I've still got several videos of scenes that I have to like, and it's cool. It's cool. It's like aftercare for me too, because like weeks later I can watch one of our scenes, and usually I'm blindfolded, but like I can see him, and how much like he's enjoying himself like while we're playing, and it's neat, and I get to see how happy I am and all those things, and then I get to cut it up and do the pictures from him. I do take stills from some of the videos, and I've gotten some really pretty pictures out of it, but he'll set my camera up too and do that the way I take pictures with the clicker and all that, and like I said, it's like so many things align well with like what I've been looking for. He's pretty good at rope. He's definitely got some. Who doesn't have a long way to go, but he's got some things to work on and like improve and discover still. Like I don't think he's really done many hip harnesses, and so I need to just put my butt in front of his face and just be like, tie it up. Tie up my butt. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there and a lot to like grow into, I feel like. But I mean at some point too, it kind of became, we had to kind of define the relationship a little bit, because it's like at some point it was like, well, you're definitely not just my bottom, because that's too dry. But like maybe submissive is too much, and I had been calling him my tie-up guy for like a couple of months, and I was like, I don't like tie-up guy, but calling you my top doesn't feel right, and calling you my dom feels like too much. And so we had to very like over time kind of define our particular dynamic and what that looks like, and it's more like it's more like it's still so like nuanced, but it's more like, I don't know, think of like priestess and a guardian or something, like like I have like, I don't know, like what did we say one time, like haunted maiden or I have to get the demons have to come out, but the only way they can get out of my body is through my face when it's pushed into the floor. That's how the demons come out. But no, but champion though is kind of how I think of him, is like he is my champion. Like he champions for me. He is a huge advocate for me. Like he is a major source of support. He takes up for me. He looks out for me. He ties me up. He meets my needs. He shows intense care and deference for me. Like, you know, like yeah, and yeah, like, and we're still kind of like filling it out, but at some point we were like, I do, at some point as it grew further, it was like, well, I am kind of like thinking and referring to you as my dom at this point, because like, now we have some kind of like, things we do outside of the playroom that are kind of like rules, not like rules and protocol, but we have a couple of things that are just like kind of rituals for us. But these are more like dom subby rituals, and they're not like, and that's another thing, is like he doesn't want like, he doesn't want my submission as much as he wants like my success, and I'm able to clearly define like, here's like things I want you to hold me accountable to, or here's things like I want you to be in my corner about, and then when I succeed, to be there to be proud of me, and then if I don't, to be there to be like, well, we're gonna do it again, like I've told him, it's like to me a dom is like a life coach who ties me up, you know. And he really, took to some of those ideas, and like, this is, I think, pretty much his first dynamic that he's been in, and like, the term dominant kind of carries with it these heavy connotations of like he's this person in charge of me, and I'm like his like, this person below him, but that's obviously not, the case with us, or and with and what I try to tell him, that's not the case with most dynamics. I think they're more egalitarian than people are willing to admit. But that's honestly what a power exchange should be. It should be an exchange where both parties are receiving like equal things that they need. They should both be getting their needs met, whatever those needs look like. Whether that's getting one of them getting their face pushed on the floor, or the other one getting massage after playing, or getting to see the other person. Drink 2 gallons of water a day, or I don't know how much you're supposed to drink a day. It's probably not 2 gallons. Um, it might be, but yeah, like I mean, and that's discussions we had about like what it looks like to us, like because everybody's are so different. But the more we kind of talked, the more it kind of looked like, well, it could be kind of mutually beneficial, in some ways. Like we both seem to enjoy these things. One thing that I struggle with, obviously I'm somebody who has abandonment trauma. I think we all know that. Yeah, I've talked about that. I think we had a whole episode on that. But I can struggle, admittedly, like if I'll go a few days without talking to somebody that I'm like connected with, and especially in like a dom substance, that had proven a problem a while back. With that person that I'm sure I've talked about on the show from like a year and a half ago, and we kind of had a falling out after we played that one time, and a lot of it was because like I had felt I was abandoned, because like we were talking a lot and we had a very regular connection, and, like we were talking all like every day, and we played once, and then that just stopped, and I didn't understand what happened, but like truth is like her partner had just like came home or something, and like she just devoted that week just to him, basically. It didn't really have anything to do with me, but like yeah, like I had a trauma response, things like that. It just sucked. But when somebody had vetted me with her like a while after that, like he had said that the only thing she had said was like scheduled check-ins would be like it would probably be a good idea with me. But I had kind of come to that conclusion, or that thought with this guy before I remembered that she had said that. Because at some point, like and to me it was like too much to like ask like a dominant to check in on me at like once a day, or like at a certain time. Like that's too much for me. But I told him, I was like, you can put that on me, you know, and be like, I want you to check in with me every day at this time or something like that. Because I is like one of these things, like I feel so intensely guilty about it. And we've talked about that a lot. You know, I was like, I shouldn't need these check-ins, like blah, blah, blah. Like, there's so many reasons why I feel bad about this. But he was, you know, willing to do them and, or, you know, willing to, yeah, and you know, as long as yeah, I don't know. It's just I still feel shitty about it. Um, but that ritual that and it's like 1:30 is like 1:30. I'll you know basically just text him, tell him hi. You know, like whether I'm having you know a horrible day or an okay day. You know, maybe we talk a little bit, maybe we don't. But like that's kind of a grounding thing for me. And you know, I don't talk to really anybody. Like I said, my social life is not very good. You know, I'm cam girl, and I have a few other things that I do, but none of them are very social. Um, you know, I go several days without speaking to another adult, really, except for in cam world. And some of these adults are incredibly horny. um, but yeah, but so we've been doing that for a little bit. Is like you know checking in or just me like you know texting him at like 1:30. And one you know I've noticed you know several things you know as a result of that. But one of the things I've noticed most was like I can't hide from him nearly as easily now. I was like if I'm having a day or a mood or like I'm in a way or I can't do anything with anybody. I can't acknowledge anybody right now. Um, you know I'm not deceptive with him and I'm pretty transparent like even if like I'm feeling bad and I'm not expecting him to do anything or just I just want him to know something like I feel pretty safe in just being like hey I feel droppy and I know there's nothing we can really do and that's okay but I just wanted you to know you know I feel like that's important to be able to say that stuff but yeah, whereas sometimes if I'm in a mood swing or in a way where I'm just like I need to withdraw from everybody and I need to pull away and just remove contact from the world for a little while, I don't, that's not always good for me. But kind of like looking at the clock and being like, you need to check in with them because if you don't, he's gonna eventually start to wonder, and then he's gonna text you, and then you're gonna have to be like, "I was sad," and then he's gonna be like, "Why didn't you just text at the normal time and tell me you're sad?" And I'll be like, "I don't know," you know. So it's like, um, so yeah, as guilty as I am over like you know feeling like I need them or you know wanting to do them or whatever. That is an unintended consequence I've noticed is like you know even like today specifically I woke up and I was like I just can't do anything like you know between the news between you know a little bit droppy between some other things like I need to just hide from everybody and then I was like but you can't hide from them. It's like well, I could but you know it's like it's I probably do need to you know vent a little or talk it's I don't need to hide like you know and if I do I should be able to you know I could tell them that too and be like hey you know like I ain't gonna check in with you for 3 days like you know it's like and that's fine but but yeah like I can safely say for now for the first time in this whole like kink journey thing that I'm in a like a healthy dynamic I would assuredly say so like of all the things I've been in that have been clearly like bad and clearly like um a whole different breed from what I'm looking at now. And I'm not saying like, oh, this is perfect or anything. Like, you know, there's like challenges I'm sure you know ahead and everything. But there's a lot of lessons that I've already taken from this thing, and I've been extremely open with them, and that in and of itself is just like kind of exposure therapy about like I'm able to get this stuff out and not be destroyed by it. And he's not punishing me for the stuff that I'm saying, and it's the abandonment trauma on the one hand, and then it's the emotional neglect and minimization on the other hand from the other parent. And so it's like I feel abandoned, and then if I feel like if I express emotion, I'll be punished for those emotions. We've been kind of like undoing some of those things as I'm expecting to be punished for having feelings and opening up and needing things. And then he's there to be like, no, that's okay that you need those things, That's huge for me. Like, that's a massive deal for me. I'm not used to that stuff. And I told him, I was like, the other night, I was like, in some ways I'm like uncomfortable because like I'm not used to being like treated so well, and I'm not used to like, like it's just a very new thing. So, but let's see. Besides that, like that is pretty much it up to date. Though it was like, I had a big old hump in the road last year, a massive one during that little 10-month break. But yeah, my hair had grown back enough right during that breakup in May that I think it was the day of the breakup, that night when I'd thrown my wigs in the trash. I just decided that my hair was grown back enough. And even though, it's still like got its like thin spot back here, that's fairly noticeable in the right light, not in all light, just some light. But it's still kind of coming back, and it, I'm pretty sure it's not falling out anymore, or, I mean, it hasn't been falling out for a while, but, I was glassed. I mean, I got pictures of me where, I was like, my hairline was like up to here, I had nothing up top. But yeah, I got my natural hair back, and it's getting long. I'm getting very excited about it getting long again. But yeah, so for the first time now, I am getting like some regular tie up from somebody who treats me very, very well and who is not like hunting things from me. And like he's, I can tell like, he's receiving a lot back. And like, and it's very good. Yeah. Like, holy shit. Sorry. It's just like when I stop and think about it, yeah. I mean, he put that hard point in for me. Yeah, it was amazing. He knows how bad I wanted one, and it was like, lots of reasons. But anyway, so I guess that's about it. I was caught up on my kink journey up until today. We were all watching the new administration, destroy the country in front of our eyes. So I don't know what the future would look like. This will be a political podcast from now on. I don't know. Yeah, what I do need to do is I need to take an episode and go a little bit more in depth about some of the things I have discovered about myself as a bottom too. Because I've come a long way figuring out like what it is I'm actually after and stuff. I really hadn't touched on much of that, but I don't know. I do need to ramble too about oh God, the state of the world, but. We'll do that another day. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching or listening, or however you're listening, or whatever, however you're watching this. If you're listening to this, you cannot see my cool Tamagotchi blanket behind me. If you are watching, then you can see how awesome it is. And yes, so... Okay, well, thank y'all for continuing to watch the TGBDSM podcast. I swear to God, we're going to interview people soon. It's been like 3 years. Like 2 years. We're going to, and I'm going to get, I don't want to pronounce her handle. It's like Gyneatog. I forget. I need to get to her and be like, hey, let's do a follow-up episode. Yeah, so anyway, I am ending this. Good night and good luck. I couldn't resist. Sorry.